What's going on? I'm just saying, family. We're back, episode two. It's been a while. I'm Jeremiah again. My co-host Will. What's up, Will? How you doing, man?
Doing well. Happy to get back. We've
Yeah,
had a couple of games that haven't been the highest anticipation in terms
yeah,
of the excitement, but still plenty to cover as Tennessee's got a big set of games coming up here in about a week.
yeah. I think Tennessee State and Rutgers then Houston. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just seeing what the energy is and what they're going to bring. How was the week? Or week and a half, 2 weeks maybe? Like, what have you been doing?
Man, just grinding. I mean, college
Yeah,
football season's still in full swing, so I'm trying to balance college football and college basketball. Obviously, still paying attention to
yeah,
Tennessee basketball, but man, watching some of these games just night in, night out. Like tonight, we had Michigan State and Kentucky, Duke and Kansas right now battling out. Just like trying to get
yeah.
back in that basketball brain takes a little bit, but otherwise, been a good couple of days, couple I guess a week and a half, we'll say. Just college football's in full swing, so I've still got my mind on that. How about you? What have you been up to?
Man, I've just been busy, fraternity stuff, man. Then we had homecoming and stuff going on, so that was been taking like a bunch of my time, man. But really, I'm so glad Thanksgiving is here.
Yeah,
Because really, Thanksgiving is really the cue for school being over, for journalists, because we don't have final exams really, to be honest. So
yeah.
all those papers and stuff are done. But yeah, I made it, so here we are. We're right here today. So
Yeah, the holidays are great because
yeah,
you got a lot of hoops on, you got a lot of football on, you can relax. And as you said too, as journalists, I never had to worry about all these exams. All my friends would always be packing in the
yeah.
textbooks and stuff. I'm like, I did my project, I'm done.
Perfect. I love it. But we ain't gonna waste no time, man. We're tired and stuff. But I don't think we're gonna dive really deep into the key aspects and specific things that happen in the game. But I think we're gonna talk about the overarching themes. We can go in order though. What you thought about period? Like, what do you thought about the last three games: Northern Kentucky, North Florida, and then Rice?
Yeah, I think comparing, the first couple outings, including the exhibition and the opener against Mercer, I think Tennessee has cleaned up some things offensively. The turnovers, I think, have continued to improve over the last couple of outings. And offensively, you're playing at a pretty efficient rate right now. And the 3 game sample size that Tennessee has, this is a top 15 team in offensive adjusted efficiency. So I think that's really big. I think you're starting to see Jacoby Gillespie become more comfortable within this offense. I thought his performance against Rice on Monday night was his most impressive performance of the season on both sides of the floor. But just in terms of the offense side, he was getting into Tennessee sets early, was setting up his teammates by chiseling into the paint, then looking for his shot. But then if that's not there, finding Felix Okpara for a couple of lob opportunities. And I really liked a lot of the off ball sets that he had as well, coming off of screens and such to get some really good looks. So I was impressed with Jacoby Gillespie. I've been impressed with his offense. We talked about it last time we were on here, but the interior depth you have on this team is going to
Yeah,
be a huge key. And I'm sure we'll talk JP Estrella here in a little bit as he's a little bit banged up. But the fact that you've got 4 or 5 different guys you can go to down low is really beneficial. And Tennessee has swamped teams so far through the season on the glass and in paint points. I think that's a product of that. And I think Ethan Berg and Amari Abram both individually had a good game during this stretch. I thought Abram played well against North Florida. I thought Berg played well against Rice. Now, I would love to see that be consistent for both of those guys. But, one of our questions was who's going to be that two guard in that starting lineup? Who's going to be that guy that can help a Gillespie? I thought Berg showed that potential against Rice, but again, need to see some more consistency there. What about you? Your overarching takeaway right now?
just the identity. I feel like we talked a lot about that episode one, the identity of this team. Uh, I thought that the team had to be a really good 3-and-D squad, that the three ball had to be falling. And they looked pretty good that first game. I think they look pretty good against, well, that may have been Northern Kentucky. I don't know. One of the games they shot about 40%, I'm pretty sure again. But really, the Tennessee's identity is we're gonna pack the paint as much as possible.
Yeah.
You see these guys, we got two guys going for, we had JP go for two career highs. He did a career high, then he broke another one the next game. Then Felix Okpara just had 20 points as well, breaking his career high. They've had I'm pretty sure they've had plus 20 advantage points in the paint in every game since the first episode. So it's really understanding, guys, we're gonna attack the rim. We're gonna put pressure on the rim. Like you said, Jacoby is doing a really good job at that. Hey, if I'm gonna get in, I'm gonna get in the paint. Maybe I got a floater. If I don't, I'm just gonna throw it over top. They've had about 8 dunks a game as well, too.
Yeah.
So definitely you can understand like the alley oops are still prevalent like that were when Zakai was there. Cade is still jumping high and dunking hard. Felix Okpara is doing the same thing. They're right there in the dunker spot, ready to crash and get offensive rebounds as well. So I'm really enjoying that aspect. And also another thing that has been prevalent to me is the scoring droughts. Like they're causing teams to go on long droughts of, hey, 0 points in the last 5 minutes and 22 seconds. And that's just what Tennessee basketball is, what I've known it as. That's what we basketball fans have been watching. Hey, Coach Barnes coaches really good defensive teams. And in defensive efficiency, these guys are top five right now. And
Yeah.
yes, they haven't played high stake games and high stake basketball with, because things are going to change with the Houston game, Rutgers, SEC, and the SEC matches coming up. But besides that, they're doing the same thing defensively. And another thing that has to stand out to me was Nate Ament. He goes on runs himself too. He starts. You were like, dang, he's having a bad game. He's 2 for 7, 2 for 8. Then he'll hit his next 4 to 5 shots, getting to the rim, doing the fadeaways, the post ups. I'm really liking that. Hitting his outside shots when after Jacoby Gillespie penetration, there's a bunch of ball movement. I'm really enjoying that as well. So it's definitely good to see that my make or break prediction is gonna work. It's gonna work because it's gonna work because I still think Jacoby is the best player, and like I said, like you said, you alluded to, he's the best shooter right now as
Hmm.
well. So it's definitely good to see that Jacoby is making everyone play better. And you
Yeah.
can see that. You can see that. You can see everybody's leaning into him, but especially the bigs. The bigs have to get going early. I'm pretty sure Barnes is saying that, hey, Felix Okpara, we need you to be great. Because I think that's a reason why they struggled last year as well, especially in SEC play. They don't have a big that can bang with
Hmm.
other bigs.
Yeah.
So yeah, Janai Broom was, yeah, he was an All-American, consistent All-American, but hey, we don't have anybody that can bang with Broom and make him tired. We don't have anybody that can bang with this guy and that guy. So I definitely think they're coming with energy this year, and it's really good to see right now for sure.
Yeah, a couple of points that I want to hit on from what you talked about, just most recently talking about those bigs. Um, again, we'll talk about Estrella here in a little bit, but last year in SEC play, you had one of the best teams in the conference, but you would get tripped up when you would start getting these physical type of games. And you're going to see a lot of those if you're a top team. You're going to see that at an Auburn. You're going to see that against an Alabama, a Kentucky, a Florida. And that was a big missing piece last year. Not having JP Estrella was big because that was one of your big depth pieces. And now, like, I haven't loved Jalen Carey so far, but Jalen Carey is a buff guy that is willing to bang around. And once you get into SEC play, that's a guy that can come in and out of rotations. That's a guy that can come in for a Felix Okpara or a JP Estrella, or be placed next to a Cade Phillips. And I thought Phillips was really good around the rim against Rice the other night, and just in terms of the tip ins and stuff like that, second chance points, rebounds, paint points, those are all big. And Dwayne Brown as well. We've seen Dwayne Brown come in before Jalen Carey a couple of times in these last couple of games. And I think that shows what Barnes thinks of him and his future with this team. So, yeah, I mean, a big talking point of this team is deservedly the type of group you have down low, because you didn't have that last year. And you made a good point on that. The second thing I want to touch on is Jacoby Gillespie. You brought up him. And I thought against Rice, he had his best playmaking as well. I thought it was his best
Yeah,
all around game because I thought he was really active defensively. He had that really nice block around the baseline, kind of guard took it in, and Gillespie just knocked it down. But offensively, I talked about the off ball screens, being able to get into the paint and find options. But just his passing, his playmaking, I thought was really good. And he had 8 assists. That's a game high against the Owls. And he pairs that with 17 points. That's really impressive. 17 of 8, 6 of 12 shooting, 3 of 6 from behind the arc. That's going to be winning basketball in SEC play once you get into March, stuff like that. So Gillespie, another really impactful player. And you talked about the defense, and it's hard not to when you talk about these Rick Barnes teams, right? Against Rice, their best scorer, a graduate guard, and Trey Broadnax, or Broadnax, I should say, he's held to just 5 points, and he's held without a field goal. He goes 0 of 16 in this one. And I give him credit for continuing to shoot. Shoot or shoot, you know what I'm saying? You got to keep on shooting. But he goes 0 of 16 in this one. And the Vols became the first team to hold an opposing player without a made field goal on 16 plus attempts since March 8th, 2022, and just the fourth to do so in the last 20 seasons. That's a Rick Barnes stat for you. Defense has been good. The offense has started to get in rhythm. I would like to see that again Thursday night against Tennessee State. But I feel like you're starting to get a little bit of the groundwork laid out for this team. And a lot of those points you hit on, I'm right there with you.
yeah. Flipping on the other side of I think we talked about the good positive things that we saw, but I do want to hit on some things that I think can bite Tennessee in the butt this year. Specifically that starting slow again. Well, I think
Yeah.
we didn't see it as much versus North Florida. Not as much versus Northern Kentucky, but we definitely saw it against Rice. Is why are we in the tie game halfway through the first half like that? That those things can't happen. You can't start off slow against Houston. You can't start off slow against even the worst SEC team. We don't know who it'll be this year, but you can't start off slow against them and
Mm-hmm.
expect to, hey, we got to make a surge. We got to make a surge. You have to get into rhythm. You got to get in the rhythm. Got to understand that. And I think Barnes definitely understands that. I don't know what it is because I was really impressed. Like I said, after North Florida game, okay, they started early. Yes, they pull away in a winning by almost 40 points, but I think that comes with, the level and the and skill of the guys that you're playing. However, how can we get out and start better, Tennessee? Tennessee, how can you as a team had decide, hey, we can't start slow. We're going to pick up the defensive energy right now from
Mm-hmm.
tip off. And then defense obviously leads to the offense, to the steals, the turnovers. Let's get quick offense. Let's get it going. What about you? What any negative things that you saw that you needs improved still?
Yeah, well, I think you bring up a good point about those starts. And last year in SEC play, Tennessee was the worst team in the conference from tip off to that first media timeout, and that was a constant topic of conversation in the middle of SEC play last year. I don't know if you remember the discourse about Jemai Mashak and whether he should be starting for this team. Would you go with a Gainey because he gives you more offense? And originally, I was on that Gainey side because I was so fed up of watching this team struggle. And really, the first 8 minutes, the first 4 minutes were bad, but it was the first 8 minutes that were, even more impactful because you'd be, sometimes behind on the scoreboard because of it. But this year, you've seen these slow starts again offensively. But I also think, at least in the case against Rice, I thought Rice came out with this kind of relentless identity, this relentless effort to attack Tennessee, take it to the basket, draw fouls, and give credit to a guy like Cam Carroll, a freshman for this Owls team. He goes 14 points, 5 of 7 shooting, but he was taking it right to the cup. Like it was fearless. And I respect teams like that, that aren't going to bow down to an SEC team on the road. And Rob Lanier was on Rick Barnes' staff back in 2019. Knows this team well, knows Rick Barnes well. So I'm sure he had a good game plan for this one. But I think there's a combination of getting off to a slow start, but also just having some teams that come out motivated at this point in the season. Right? This is a motivation for them to go showcase what they can do against an SEC team. And as a competitor, I think that instills a lot of drive in some of these guys. But you know, it's tough to start a game perfect, right? basketball is a game of runs. You could go on a 12-0 run at any point in the game and start to build your cushion. I just think Tennessee's not doing that at the beginning of games. That's a little bit of a
Yeah,
concern, but they are still able to make their way. I mean, you had the second half at one point, it was like 49-61, and Tennessee balloons it to 69 or 70. So
yeah.
they have shown that they can go on these stretches, but it's more so in the middle or late portion of the game where Tennessee's trying to put teams away, which is not a bad thing. But again, when you go up against a Rutgers, who's going to have a, you know, higher level recruiting class, higher level players, Houston, self explanatory, the type of group they have, you're going to have to get off to better starts. But I do think that's something to look at. Um, but in terms of like what my concern would be, it's still 3-point shooting.
Hmm.
I know you have shot fairly well. I mean, you mentioned earlier, I believe either Northern Kentucky or North Florida, you shoot around 40%. And that's a good number. You'll take that any given night. But I do worry if you have the guys on the perimeter with the confidence to fire them. Because I notice when Jacoby Gillespie gets the ball, he's looking to shoot.
He's
When
ready.
Yeah, exactly. And when Nate Ament gets the ball, he even had a possession last night. It was funny as can be. They inbounded it to him. He wanted to take the corner three, and he kept on looking at the rim and then dribbled it to the wing, dished it off, got it back. Like he was wanting to shoot the shot, and he ended up taking it and got fouled. But like he just had the mindset of I want to take this shot. I don't know if you have those guys down the list. I don't know
Yeah,
if Ethan Berg's a guy that is necessarily catching it ready to shoot. Like Dalton Connect gets it
ready.
off gets it off the catch. He's one to shoot. Chaz Lanier, Jordan Gainey, those guys were ready to shoot. I'm just interested to see if Tennessee is able to develop players with confidence around the perimeter outside of your stars. That would be my big concern right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree for sure. It's definitely something. And it's Amen. Like, I mean, this is his first couple games, so maybe he's still getting comfortable. But I'm pretty sure Barnes is preaching to him, "Hey, man, how you think you're our best player? Essentially, we pay you for this. Shoot the ball." He used to
Yeah.
tell Tennis in there all the time. Well, we pay you. We can talk about it now. We pay you, so I'm paying you to shoot the ball. I need you to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he's definitely probably coaching him in practice. Hey, Nate, you have to shoot the ball. You have to use your frame. You're 6'9", 6'10", good guard handle. Shoot the shots that Jacoby sets up for you. Shoot the shots that the ball movement sets up for you. But obviously, we talked about it earlier. I want to see how JP Estrella's injury affects the rebounding and physicality of this team. And it sucks to see because JP always gets out ready to go, gets high. He had what he have a shoulder injury last, was it? No, that was Cade. Was it a foot injury?
Yeah. Yeah. Because Cade looks like the winter soldier
Yeah,
out there still
yeah,
with
yeah,
that
yeah.
armband. But yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it
Phillips
was
was
a
a
foot
foot
injury.
injury.
Yeah.
Or
And
excuse
then
me,
you see
Estrella. Excuse me, Estrella was a foot
yeah.
injury.
And then you see him leave the game with a leg injury.
Yeah.
Yesterday, and it really sucks because, like I said, he was balling. He set career high against North Florida, then set another career high. Like he's ready to go. So I definitely want to see how this team's outlook as far as rebound and physicality is affected because they had over 50 rebounds in all three of those games, like a plus 15 or more rebounding differential.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely on the O boards, JP, he was really strong and really attacking those O boards. And like you said, those tip ins that K and Okpara was doing, he was doing it off the bench in selected minutes. So what do you think do you think the identity will change at all? Or if you do, how much?
Yeah, so the Estrella injury obviously a concern, and that's why earlier I tabled this conversation because it is important and is one of the bigger takeaways from the early action so far. Leaves the game against Rice with about a minute 26 left to go. It looked like it got hyperextended, and Barnes talked about it after the game. Said he seemed it was more cautionary, if anything, and I was waiting all day today to get a text of what his status was. I mean, first thing I did this morning was ask around because I mean that's a big development for this team. If he's not able to go for an extended period of time, I don't think it's an all out panic because you do have a lot of depth down there. But I think Estrella is your best back to the basket offensive threat in terms of feed him on the low post and he's able to make a play. I don't necessarily think Okpara is as skilled in
Yeah,
that facet. And Brown, I think, is more kind of one of those just glass cleaning bigs that just kind of hovers around the rim, can kind of tip it in. Estrella's got some touch, and he showcased that early in the year. But even without him in this one for a whole half, you finish out with a 52-16 edge in paint points, 22-8 margin in second chance points, 47-31 advantage on the glass. And you mentioned those O boards, 18 of them in this one. And I don't think it's any correlation that you shoot 15, or it's going to be 52.3% from the game because you had all those points down low. You're getting easy ones. So I'm not necessarily worried about the physicality without Estrella because I think you have that already with the other four guys. And I'd even say Brown and Carey are more suited for that type of ball. But Estrella, I think, gives you the best offensive touch. And I think that is important against a Houston, against Rutgers, really just the rest of the way. Because if Houston shuts you down on the perimeter and doesn't allow Gillespie to get open looks, and Ament kind of gets cramped up against a really good defensive game plan in Kelvin Sampson, your source of offense is coming down low.
has to.
And they're not going to be able to allow those dribble drives that Gillespie got a ton of against Rice. They're going to, seal that off and force other guys to make plays. So I am worried about that in this one.
Bless you, bro.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm sorry about it. Yeah.
I think another thing that I worry about is how tight does the rotation get for Barnes, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because of course you can play all your guys because we're playing D3 schools, maybe low D1s, D2s. We don't know who we're
Yeah.
playing. They're playing guys that were just they're scheduled fillers right now. Just getting the feel for these non-conference games and SEC play we got coming up. But with JP, if in the worst case scenario that he's missing some real time, how tight does the rotation get? Because JP was his minutes grew every game as Barnes started to trust him more and more, seeing how active and how much energy he had while playing. So, we talked about it last episode. Barnes really only ran a 7-man rotation when things really got going. Does he go back to that? How do things look with the big guys? How is he rotating them in and out? When does Berg and Abram when are they ready to play? I'm really intrigued to see how Barnes manages it all when it comes to because injuries do mess up things. And it's really sad to see injuries in college basketball because you really don't as much. Injuries in college basketball are like you really feel them because it's like dang
Yeah.
these guys are playing 30 games, but they got to hoop. So yeah,
Especially for a guy like Estrella, too, a guy that missed the final 35 games of last year.
yeah,
He's off to a career best start right now, averaging 14-8, and that's taken into account just the 4 points and one rebound he had last night. So that's really kind of a misleading stat for his season average because he's been much better than that. But those are still both career highs. It's unfortunate because he's played well, and this is a guy that fought back all last year and
yeah.
had to sit on the bench for a lot of big time games, another Elite Eight run. That's tough. That's tough on a kid, but I think he's been really beneficial in his bounce back, and I hope that it's nothing severe. In terms of the rotation, and I'll ask you the same. I'll give an answer, and I'll ask you the same here. I think right now you got your starting five: Gillespie, Berg, Ament. I'll keep Estrella in there. Just let's hoping for the best that it's just a week to week thing or game to game thing. Estrella and Okpara. So those are your five. I'd anticipate the guys coming off the bench that play. Cade Phillips, a guy that played last year. I'd anticipate Amari Abram,
Oswell.
Boswell. Okay, yeah, Boswell. I guess is usually in that starting lineup. So and he was out against Rice. So Boswell, that's 8. I think you're going to see Troy Henderson.
Okay.
And I think you'll see, I think Tennessee could really go 11 guys. And I know last year you went 7, but I think you had to go 7 last year because you didn't have any interior depth.
That's
And if
true.
everyone's healthy, I feel like you can. Like I don't love Carey. I'd put Brown in over Carey, but I feel like Carey's too veteran of a player not to play. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So honestly, right now I see 11 guys playing. And it's more so just interchanging those interior pieces, those front court players, and you've got five guys at your disposal there, I think all of them will play. Where you get thin is some of those guards. But I think Henderson's a guy that Barnes wants to play at some point this season in important minutes. And whether that's against Rutgers where he gets that opportunity or Houston, I think Houston would be a tough matchup for him. But if he's going to be a player for this team over the course of the season, he's going to have to learn. But I'd say 11 guys right now. I know that sounds crazy, but I just think when you compare the two teams from last year, it's basically the same type of group in terms of what you've got in your best seven, but now you've got four other players you can go to at your disposal down low. What would your number be?
Mm. I know it's really tough because I think the one question that pops up in my head is how do they look when it's a one possession game late instead of a 20 plus point possession? You know, a 20 point
Mm-hmm.
when you have a 20-point cushion. Yes, because you know guys play more comfortable. We saw that last year with Bishop Boswell, for example. Let's take him. In the games that didn't really matter that were low stake, he would play a little bit more comfortable, but you could tell when those games that did matter, when Zakai was in foul trouble, Jamal Meshack was in foul trouble, he played really tense. That caused him to turn the ball over,
Mm-hmm.
not shoot open shots. And Barnes definitely, you could, it reflected in his minutes and reflected on
Mm-hmm.
how Barnes got on him as well. So especially with these young guys, how comfortable do they look in the one possession game against Rutgers, against Houston,
Yeah.
against Texas, against the Kentucky? How comfortable do they look? So I don't think I have an exact number right now until I see. I think I'll have a number when I see them play Houston. I think
Okay.
it'll be the game like, okay, because Barnes is going to go with the guys that he feels are comfortable to play basketball in those high stakes situations.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why Barnes scheduled these games like that. Like I said, when the last episode, he wouldn't have scheduled Duke for no reason at all. He
Yeah.
said, I want my guys to know these are the guys we're gonna have to play in March. So let's see what we can do against them in the first game of the season. Yes, it's an exhibition, but we're gonna play it like it's a real game. So I believe Barnes will trust the guys who play the most comfortable and who don't lose the identity and the what we talked about this whole week
Mm-hmm.
during practice, who don't lose that just because of a hostile environment or a tough team like Houston.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Rutgers, or excuse me, really Rutgers and Houston, but I think more so Houston, like you're saying, is going to be the litmus test for this team overall. It shows where you are
Yeah.
at this point in the season up against a group that's already established themselves as one of the top teams. Houston and Auburn played the other night,
Yep.
and Houston comes out with a win. It might have been controversial late, and the whole Pearl family might have been calling for a call, but Houston comes out with a win. And that's a signature win for them early in the season. They've been battle tested to this point. Tennessee has yet to be battle tested. I don't think Rutgers is great. And, even last year when they had Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, I thought that team was kind of all over the place in terms of their mechanics and how they got into their offensive sets and defensively. I mean, that was a group that lost to Kennesaw State last year on the road early in the season. And obviously that team was not a tournament team, but Houston's a different beast, and we all know that. And there's going to be a little bit of extra motivation for maybe a couple of guys on this team, knowing from what happened last year. But I think you make a great point in saying, how did these guys perform in those moments? I like Troy Henderson right now. Am I going to like Troy
Yep.
Henderson against the Houston Cougars defense? I didn't like Bishop Boswell last year because of those reasons. He just did not look like he belonged out there. Maybe that changes this year. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I'm also intrigued for a guy like Ament. I think Ament against Houston is
Yeah,
going
for
to be
sure.
big because that's going to be where is this guy right now, and what does he have that kind of killer instinct? Is he able to go? Because I feel like Barnes is going to go let these guys play, and he's like Ament will probably play 30 something minutes.
35 minutes. Yeah, 35
So
minutes. Yeah.
yeah, so like this is like I feel like he's going to approach it like this is a tournament game. Let's go play like one and see what Ament can do. Now, if he drops like a 30 burger with a 10-piece wing combo with some assists and rebounds, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But if he looks cramped up, then we might have we Gonna be because you got a lot of big games coming up after this stretch as well. But
Yeah.
I think you make a good point.
Yeah, but I think, like you said, that was gonna be my next point. Ament and Gillespie, hey, you guys have to be the 1-2 punch nightly. Like you
Mm-hmm.
can't have off nights because we've seen it. Usually in the times where Tennessee has started off slow, Ament and or Gillespie, they're both either one of them are struggling from the field or struggling to they're turning the ball over and stuff, or both of them are just not shooting the ball as much. But when they get going, when they have the scoring runs, when Ament has his little 7-0 scoring runs by himself, 10-0 scoring runs by himself. Gillespie is shooting his open looks, making his open looks. Then the offense gets going. They get the other guys going. When they see the ball going in it for them, they get when they see Ament and Gillespie shoot the ball well, the other
Yeah.
guys shoot the ball as well. And the energy is up when they get to Gillespie pump fake, drive with a floater, or like I said, the lob over the top. So it's like I think honestly they understand this too. Hey, we have to be the best guys on the team. We're the MVP and a make or break player. Nate, you have to be you're a 4 star. I mean, I'm sorry, you're number four
Yeah.
recruit in the nation for a reason. 5 star, you're getting KD comparisons, my guy. Like you have to show up nightly. Yes, you're 18, but you have to be a mature. You're going to the league next year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you said, how can he show up in these big games? Because we've seen like AJ DeManster against who did he just play? Who did they just play?
UConn.
Yeah, yeah, really good game. Like that's a tough game. Yes, he started out slow, but his second half was amazing. Like
Yeah.
he's playing with energy, he's playing professionally. Hey, we got guys like Peterson in Kansas. He's playing professional. We got Boozer. Is your name supposed to be up there with them? Like, are these guys
Yeah.
that are you in that conversation? Because I think he has the ability, he has God-given talent to be, but are you in that conversation? And the only way you can show us you are in that conversation is by showing up in games where your team needs you the most. So how can they do that? That's what I'm looking forward to. Can they be that 1-2 punch every game this season?
Yeah, it was funny that you bring that up, that top four, because I was watching Scott Van Pelt the other night and they were talking college basketball for a second, and they put up a graphic of those four players, DeBonsa and Peterson and Boozer, and Ament was on there. And one of my friends happened to be watching it at the same time as well and sent a picture to it, or sent a picture of it to our group chat, and goes, "One guy doesn't belong here." And I go, "Well, you better not be talking about Nate Ament, because Nate Ament is still, averaging 21 and 8 and 3 assists a night, like 21, 8 and 3. I don't care if it's North Texas, or I mean, not North Texas, North Florida, Northern Kentucky. Those are still good numbers. And my thing was like, because a lot of people's argument right now about Amon is like, well, he's not playing anyone. Well, he's doing his job against no
Yeah,
one. So, like, why is that a negative? If he were playing bad, it'd be a really big issue, but he's doing his
yeah,
job, and people are now like, well, it's just no one. They're not playing anyone. I just think it's a ludicrous argument because he's doing his job. Um, but he's going to have to be that type of level player that you're talking about, because Boozer's showing it every night. DeBonsa does it against UConn in a really big game. Peterson's a little bit banged up, but he looks the part. And I would say Ament does too. He just hasn't had the opportunity to do it on a big stage yet. I think that's the difference between the four of them. And you're going to have the opportunity to do that in Las Vegas up against a really good Houston team in a primetime slot. I feel like Gillespie right now, I have no worries about.
yeah.
Gillespie's played a lot of big games. He was on that Crab Five team last year for Maryland. And
Crap.
yeah, hey, I love that Crab Five team last year. They were awesome. I wish his teammate Ronnie Rice joined us, but that's neither here nor there. But he's played a ton of big games before. Next week's not going to phase him.
Yeah,
Ament is a guy that I, could be a little bit worried about. He's playing a ton of big games on the AAU circuit, but not with Kelvin Sampson on the sideline coaching against him defensively. So I think that you're going to learn a lot about him over the next couple of weeks, but I think he's at least shown you so far that he's got the talent and that he's not a bust. It's there. He just needs a stage to do it. And hopefully he's got that killer instinct. KD has it. You mentioned KD. KD's got that killer instinct. I wonder if Ament's got it in him.
yeah, definitely. So, I feel like we talked about all the like prior game stuff. What do
Mm-hmm.
you think is next for Tennessee? What do what do sports fans, basketball fans, ball fans need to watch next for Tennessee in its upcoming games? I think it's Tennessee State, Rutgers, then Houston. So
Yeah, that's a 3 game stretch. A rare 2 game week in out of
mhm.
conference play this week. You play Rice on Monday, you cook them, and then now Tennessee State on Thursday. An opportunity to kind of tune some things up. I'm interested to see if Boswell plays. Boswell was a scratch for Monday's game, as him and Ament were both questionable on Sunday, but Ament ends up going. Want to see if Boswell's available because I do think he would be somewhat valuable in Las Vegas as a guy that's played and has experience. But I think the thing is pretty easy right now for Tennessee fans to look for, and I think it's what we've discussed. It's what do your two best players look like against a good defense? Does this team have a secondary 3 point shooter, a guy that's going to demand attention and be ready to shoot? And what does the physicality look like down low against a team that's going to match you in that physicality? So I think it's tough for Tennessee that they're coming into this one without a prior game against a team like that. Auburn was very physical with Houston, and that was the type of game it was. Tennessee hasn't necessarily played that yet. I don't know if you're going to get that with Rutgers, but I think it's a lot of the same things we've talked about, and just 3 point shot, Nate Ament, and do you maintain that physicality and presence on the glass? So that's what
Yeah,
I look for in these next 3 games. Against Tennessee State, tuning some things up. Rutgers, kind of, showcase why you're a top 20 team in that one. Maybe get into those rotations that we were talking about, trim them up a little bit to where guys are playing a little bit longer than they have in these other ones. And, kind of put some style points out there. 15, 20 point win, that'd look nice. Going to that Houston game with some momentum and then showcase what you can do in front of the rest of the country. What about you? What are you watching for in these next 3?
really just the health of Estrella, man. Uh, I think he's a motor guy. I thought like last year, like the way Cade would come in and have just such high energy. I think Barnes trusted him a lot, and we saw that. So I'm really just Estrella. Like, you could tell he was eager to play. Like sitting out all last year,
Yeah.
missing the whole season. Like he's really eager to play and really contribute to this team. So I think his health is like my biggest thing that I'm looking at for these next couple of games, and it that goes hand in hand with what you said about the rebounding and the paint and the physicality of it all. How much are we going to see this whole season? Is this the team's identity, or is it just because hey, we're playing smaller guys, we're not playing big guys, so we're just going to put pressure on the rim as much as we can? But like you said, hey, we're not going to let Gillespie shoot wide open shots. We're not going to let Gillespie shoot six threes and make three or four. I'm pretty sure Simpson is thinking that right now,
Yeah.
and we're also going to put pressure on Nate Ament. So make these big guys beat us. And can we see that? Can the big guys beat us? Can Felix Okpara do what he did against Rice? Hey, can like you may not be a big fan. Hey, can Kerry crash the boards? Can we have K Phillips come in? Hey, we need you to beat JP tonight. Dunk
Mm-hmm.
everything, put everything in the
Yeah.
rim. So just really, like I said, the health of Estrella and just really seeing the dominance in the paint. How much longer does this happen? Like once the schedule turns into real competition, how much longer does it happen?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be a telltale sign for the rest of the season because it's not going to get easier in the SEC
Yeah.
because there are a lot of really talented teams, really talented bigs that you're going to play throughout the conference that are going to be physical. You're going to have these top 25 games on the road. This is a lot of people looked at that first part of Tennessee's schedule and said, "What is this?" But Tennessee does rattle off a lot of big games coming up, so you're going to learn a lot about this stretch. But this is kind of the beginning of it, and you get 2 or 3 games now to really get your feet under you. I think you've done that incrementally in these last 3, but now you have one more game to put it all together, and then lights are on the rest of the way. November basketball is the closest thing we get to March until it's March in terms of just playing out of conference teams in a tournament style environment. This is a litmus test for this group. And, I think we hit on a lot of the things to watch for now. It's just, we got to watch it play out.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited to see. We'll probably do the same thing, guys, with combining probably the next two games, and then giving a real Houston preview of what we think of what we're seeing in these next two versus Tennessee State and Rutgers. But we appreciate y'all listening to us talk ball. I'm Jeremiah again. It's my guy Will, man. Appreciate y'all for rocking with us. Like, comment, subscribe. Send to a Vol fan if you want to. Hey, just listen. I'm just saying. Peace.